Hello and welcome to a brand new guide where I'm showing you 20 tips and tricks that I wish I knew before doing any of my vault runs. Now obviously this is going to be aimed at newer players, but if you're a veteran, I'm sure you can still find some useful tips in this as well. So be sure you're sticking around all the way to the end, as some of our juicier tips are saved for last. Lastly, I want to encourage you, if you're enjoying the video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe for more awesome content from yours truly. It truly does help the channel, and I'll appreciate it. Oh, and of course, don't forget to share this out with friends, family, friends of the family, and family of the friends. So diving right in, we have tip number 1, and that is, leave a marker to the exit. I know this seems like rather a basic one, but ensuring that you do this each and every room will help to ensure that you're not getting lost while inside the vault and losing all of your precious loot to some poor timing. Now I've seen many iterations of this. Myself personally, I use a torch at the entrance of every room that I come into. I've seen some people use 3 blocks just to orient themselves and point in the direction of the exit. I've also seen people do this in the extreme and build large arrows. Whatever your technique may be, make it your own, and if it's good enough, share it back here with us. I'm sure we'd all be interested to see all the different ways that we can keep ourselves from getting lost.
I'm lost!
Tip number 2, get heal ASAP. Heal is an amazing ability which allows you to stay inside the vaults for even longer. It makes sure that any of that unnecessary fall damage that you took doesn't push you closer to an untimely death and the loss of all your loot. Sure, it may be almost useless in the overworld, but in vaults, it'll greatly extend the amount of time that you're allowed to stay alive in there. Tip number 3 is to always carry a water bucket with you. There's many applications of water buckets, some of which we'll be covering later on in this video. But the main one that a lot of the pro streamers you see playing this pack use is a water bucket MLG drop system, where you fall from a large height, place a bucket of water as soon as you're about to land, and swish, you're safe. Tip number 4, remember, you can build. So if a lot of mobs are coming at you, simply pillar up. Most of the time they won't be able to reach you. That is unless, of course, there's a spider or a skeleton with a bow. Always make sure you know which enemies you're facing and which ones you aren't. That's not an actual tip, just be wise. And on that same note, for tip number 5, always make sure you bring in compressed blocks in with you. This can be logs that can be turned into planks, or it can be actual compressed blocks as well. This mod pack has them, so you can simply stack all of your cobblestone into one large stack, go into the vault, and then unstack it once you're in there. This allows you to carry more blocks in with you, so you don't simply run out or have to start breaking down the environment just to survive. Tip number 6 is to use water to slow your enemies. I know in dire times you're not thinking straight, but that's okay. Hop in a big old puddle and everything around you will get slowed down trying to reach you. Except for skeleton archers, of course. These guys avoid a lot of these pitfalls here and extra tips, so just try to avoid them or run away when you see them. Tip number 7, bows are better. Bows or crossbows are generally a better way to take out enemies. They allow you to completely mitigate and avoid the chance of taking damage, which is always nice when you're in a place where your health really matters. And for tip number 8, we stay within this same note and make sure you bring a quiver. These things can hold multiple stacks of arrows and can be pulled out rather quickly by simply right-clicking. You can obtain a quiver by simply slaying several skeletons. They'll eventually drop one, just trust me. Tip number 9, don't overstay in a room. You know how annoying it can be when friends come over and you're like, man, I really want you to leave, but I don't want to be the jerk that says, hey, can you get out of my home? Well, Vault Hunters is nothing like that. You can leave whenever you want, and you're never going to offend anybody other than the zombies, and that's fine because they have smelly breath. The point I'm trying to make is, well, don't overstay your welcome in a room. Get the loot that you want to get, and if something seems too hard, simply avoid it. Go on to the next room. No one's going to judge you. Matter of fact, most people probably aren't watching you. For tip number 10, it seems like an obvious one again, but you know what? It works, so listen up. You should always bring in some potions with you. Potions of healing can heal you immediately, as per the name implies, but there's also other useful potions, such as haste, so you can break spawners faster, and strength, so you can smack mobs harder. Tip number 11, mobs get harder as you go, and I mean this in 2 regards. Both the variants, such as skeletons with bows, and spiders, and even baby drown, start spawning as you get higher in levels, but also the mobs get higher themselves in levels, so you'll notice that a level 1 vault with zombies in it, the zombies actually have much less health than if you were level 50 running into a vault. Those zombies are pretty stacked. This is to help offset the fact that your loot gets much better, so you can't just instantly go around and kill everything with your netherite sword always. You have to keep upgrading and get better vault loot and vault gear. Tip number 12, took me finding this out the hard way, and that is, mobs can spawn off a trap chest. Sometimes you go to open a chest and nothing pops out, and you think, hey, that poison chest just didn't work. Well, in all actuality, probably what happened are there's some hunters that just spawned up in the vault, and they're running for you, so be prepared. Tip number 13, if it looks like it's big enough to contain some treasure inside of it, it probably does, and you should mine down in there. Also, when it comes to treasure runes, make sure you mine the sand. Tip number 14 is to organize your pouches and shulker boxes before you go in. This can include recoloring them or even renaming them, so that way when you're in the vault and you're trying to organize your loot, you can quickly read, see, and make use of. For tip number 15, I simply recommend that you use some scaffolding. Not only can you pillar it up quicker than most blocks, it also has unique abilities as far as how you can place the block. Furthermore, if you go back down to the bottom, it's super easy to climb down as you simply look down and hold shift and you'll quickly descend. You can also just break the bottom scaffolding and regain all your blocks. Tip number 16, remember, there's no shame in leaving early. Nobody's going to judge you. As I said earlier, most people aren't watching you. Get the experience, get the loot that you want, and get out safely. You can always do another vault later on, it's no big deal. And it's certainly better than having your hopes up for all the nice stuff that you just saw and then losing it because you were a fool and didn't want to leave. Tip number 17, again, seems like an obvious one, but it can get the better of you. And that is, always make sure you're safe before checking your inventory. This can include pillaring up or even completely blocking yourself off so no surprises happen. Tip number 18 is for all those Minecraft noobs out there. And that is, you outrange your enemies. By actually quite a lot. You can stand on top of a 3-block pillar and smack your enemies away. And you can also stand at quite a far distance from the spawners in order to break them. Make sure you're using these aspects and elements in order to keep yourself safe when dealing with various disasters inside the vault. Tip number 19 is to try to avoid the spawners that simply don't break. They're going to take you way too long to destroy and simply not be worth it in the end. That is unless, of course, you're going for experience, in which case just stand on the outer edge of them, slay as many mobs as you see fit, and then walk away. That way you don't have to worry about breaking it or getting in close and getting too harmed. And last but not least, we have tip number 20, and that is to remember, this is a marathon, not a race. Go slow. I know each vault has its own timer, and sometimes that can put a lot of pressure on you to perform at a quicker rate. But don't let it get to you. Each vault is your own to have, seize, and hold, so get the loot that you want, know yourself, and get out safely, so you can enjoy the game and not get too frustrated with the mod pack. After all, your enjoyment is the #1 most important fact when playing any video game. So keep that about you, keep your mental health safe, and I hope you enjoy running more vaults. If you learned anything from these tips, be sure to leave a like down below and comment on what it was, or comment on a couple of other new tips that players can use that I haven't mentioned here. Of course, subscribe if you're new here and you want to see more awesome content from yours truly. Share this out, and as per the usual, I hope you all stay awesome, stay safe, and stay crafting. Until next time, peace.